Sebastian Zimmerman's heart nearly stopped when she walked through the door. The late morning sunlight caught in her auburn hair, creating a halo effect that made her stand out among the other brunch guests mingling in his best friend's penthouse. Her laughter, melodic and genuine, carried across the room, and Sebastian found himself gravitating toward the sound before he even realized he was moving. "Who is that?" he asked Marcus, his host and oldest friend since college, trying to sound casual while adjusting his designer watch, a nervous habit he'd developed over years of high-stakes business negotiations. "Who?" "Oh, Emma, that's my little sister," Marcus replied, following Sebastian's gaze. "I didn't know she was coming. Must have been Mom's doing." Sebastian had known Marcus Lambert for 15 years, yet somehow had never met the younger sister who now commanded his complete attention. At 35, Sebastian had built a shipping empire worth billions, orchestrated complex international deals, and faced down ruthless competitors, but asking for an introduction to Emma Lambert suddenly felt more daunting than any boardroom battle. "Why haven't I met her before?" Sebastian asked, accepting a mimosa from a passing server without taking his eyes off Emma. "She's been living overseas. Conservation work in South America and Africa for the past few years," Marcus explained. "Just moved back to start her own environmental consulting firm." He narrowed his eyes at Sebastian. "Why the interest? Please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking." Sebastian tore his gaze away from Emma to face his friend. "Introduce me as your friend, nothing more," Marcus sighed dramatically. "Fine, but remember that's my baby sister." "She looks like she can handle herself," Sebastian commented as they approached Emma, who was engaged in animated conversation with an elderly couple. "Emma," Marcus interrupted, "there's someone I'd like you to meet. This is Sebastian Zimmerman, my friend from college. Seb, my sister Emma Lambert." Up close, Emma was even more striking. Her eyes were a deep emerald green, intelligent and slightly mischievous. She wore a simple sundress that suggested comfort over fashion, yet she outshone every meticulously styled socialite in the room. "The shipping magnate," Emma said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Marcus has mentioned you, something about saving his academic career with late-night study sessions," Sebastian laughed. "More like saving him from certain expulsion after the infamous chemistry lab incident." "Hey, that was never proven to be my fault," Marcus protested. "The dean seemed pretty convinced," Sebastian countered before turning back to Emma. "Your brother mentioned you're starting an environmental consulting firm." Her eyes lit up. "Yes, Green Horizon Consulting. We help companies minimize their environmental impact while maintaining profitability. Actually, the shipping industry could use our services." "Is this a sales pitch?" Sebastian asked, amused. "Consider it networking," Emma replied with a smile that did strange things to Sebastian's usually steady pulse. "Though I doubt Zimmerman Shipping needs my help, I've read about your sustainable practices. Impressive for a company of your size." Sebastian was caught off guard. Most people at social gatherings wanted to talk about his wealth or yacht collection, not his company's environmental policies. "You've researched my company." "I research all potential clients," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Plus, I make it a point to know which corporations are genuinely trying to make a difference versus those just greenwashing for PR. Marcus cleared his throat. "I'm going to check on the other guests. Try not to talk shop the entire time, you two." He walked away, glancing back with a warning look at Sebastian. Left alone with Emma, Sebastian found himself unusually tongue-tied. "So, South America and Africa. 5 years between the Amazon and various conservation projects across East Africa," Emma confirmed. "It changes your perspective on what matters." "I can imagine," Sebastian replied, genuinely interested. "What was the most challenging part?" Emma considered the question thoughtfully. "Convincing local communities that conservation can coexist with economic development. People need to make a living, and if protecting the environment doesn't put food on their tables, you can't blame them for choosing survival." The conversation flowed effortlessly from there. Sebastian found himself sharing details about growing up on the docks where his father worked as a longshoreman, before starting a modest shipping operation with 2 small boats, the humble beginnings of what would become Zimmerman Shipping. Emma listened intently, asking insightful questions that revealed her genuine interest rather than the polite pretense he'd grown accustomed to from others. "Your father must be proud of what you've built," Emma remarked. Sebastian's expression softened. "He passed away before we hit the big time. Heart attack, but he saw enough to know we were on our way." Emma touched his arm lightly. "I'm sorry, but I think he probably knew exactly what you would accomplish." The gesture was small but electric. Sebastian felt an immediate connection that transcended physical attraction. Here was someone who saw past his wealth and status to the person underneath. The brunch stretched well into the afternoon, with Sebastian and Emma finding themselves on Marcus's balcony overlooking Central Park. The other guests had thinned out, but neither seemed to notice. "So, Miss Lambert, if I were interested in your consulting services, how would I go about securing them?" Sebastian asked, leaning against the railing. Emma raised an eyebrow. "Is this a professional inquiry, Mr. Zimmerman?" "Let's say it's both professional and personal," he replied, holding her gaze. "In that case," Emma said, reaching into her purse for a business card, "you can call me directly. For either reason." As their fingers brushed during the exchange, Sebastian knew with absolute certainty that this chance meeting would change the course of his life. 2 days later, Sebastian sat in his corner office on the 50th floor of the Zimmerman building, staring at Emma's business card. He'd rehearsed what to say a dozen times, feeling ridiculously like a teenager rather than a man who regularly negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts without breaking a sweat. Finally, he dialed the number. "Green Horizon Consulting, Emma Lambert speaking." Her voice came through clear and professional. "Emma, it's Sebastian Zimmerman from Marcus's Brunch." He mentally kicked himself for the unnecessary reminder as if she wouldn't remember. "Sebastian," she replied, her tone warming. "I was wondering when you'd call." "I'd like to discuss your services," he said, regaining his composure. "For Zimmerman Shipping. We're expanding our fleet and want to ensure we're incorporating the most cutting-edge sustainable technologies." "I see," Emma said, and Sebastian could almost hear her smile through the phone. "Would you prefer a formal proposal first, or shall we discuss it over dinner?" Sebastian grinned. "Dinner tomorrow. I know a place with an excellent view of the harbor, appropriate for discussing shipping matters." "Sounds perfect. Text me the details." Sebastian hung up, feeling lighter than he had in years. His assistant, Deanne, who had worked with him for a decade, poked her head in. "You look pleased. Did we win the Singapore contract?" "No, that's still pending," Sebastian replied. "Just made dinner plans." Deanne gave him a knowing look. "With Marcus's sister. He called twice this morning. Something about warning you off." Sebastian laughed. "Book us a table at the Harborview for tomorrow at 7, and send flowers to Emma Lambert at Green Horizon Consulting." "Something elegant but not ostentatious." "Of course, sir. And what should the card say?" Sebastian thought for a moment. "Looking forward to discussing how we can save the world together. Sebastian." The following evening, Sebastian arrived at the Harborview 15 minutes early, requesting their best table overlooking the water. As the sun began its descent, casting golden light across the harbor where some of his company's ships were docked, he spotted Emma entering the restaurant. She wore a forest green dress that complemented her eyes, simple yet elegant. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, catching the ambient light of the restaurant. Sebastian stood as she approached, struck again by how naturally beautiful she was. "The flowers were lovely," Emma said as she took her seat. "Though I should warn you, I don't mix business with pleasure lightly." "Noted," Sebastian replied, appreciating her directness, "though I hope we can manage both successfully." Over appetizers, they discussed Emma's vision for Green Horizon and her experiences abroad. Sebastian found himself captivated by her passion and expertise. "Most consultants talk about sustainability in abstract terms," he remarked. "You speak from direct experience." "That's why I started Green Horizon," Emma explained. "Too many environmental consultants have never set foot in a rainforest or spoken with the communities most affected by climate change. I wanted to bridge that gap." By the main course, The conversation had shifted to Sebastian's company and potential areas for collaboration. His initial attraction was deepening into genuine admiration for her intellect and principles. "Your company is already ahead of most in the industry," Emma acknowledged. "But there's still room for improvement, particularly in your supply chain management and port operations." "I'm open to suggestions," Sebastian said, "but fair warning, I drive a hard bargain." Emma's eyes sparkled with challenge. "So do I, Mr. Zimmerman, so do I." When dessert arrived, business talk had given way to more personal exchanges. Sebastian learned about Emma's childhood as the bookish younger sister to Marcus's gregarious personality, her decision to pursue environmental science against her parents' wishes for a more practical career, and her determination to prove that businesses could thrive while protecting the planet. "Your brother was quite protective when he introduced us," Sebastian noted. "Any particular reason?" Emma laughed. "Marcus has appointed himself my guardian since we were kids, plus he's witnessed your dating history." "Ah," Sebastian said, slightly embarrassed, "my reputation precedes me." "Model on Monday, actress on Tuesday, socialite on Wednesday," Emma teased. "Marcus might have mentioned something along those lines." Sebastian leaned forward. "That was before I knew what I was looking for." "And what are you looking for, Sebastian?" Emma asked softly. "Someone real," he replied without hesitation. "Someone who sees beyond the bank account and the company name, someone who challenges me." Emma held his gaze. "And do you think you've found that?" "I think I'm sitting across from her right now." The evening ended with Sebastian walking Emma to her apartment in the village, a modest but charming brownstone that reflected her practical nature. "Most men would have sent a car," Emma remarked as they strolled through the quiet streets. "I'm not most men," Sebastian replied. "And something tells me you wouldn't have appreciated it anyway." At her doorstep, Sebastian hesitated, wanting to kiss her but sensing she might prefer to take things slowly. Emma solved his dilemma by rising on her toes and pressing a light kiss to his cheek. "Thank you for dinner. And for taking my company seriously. I'll have my team contact yours tomorrow about beginning the consultation," Sebastian said, "and I'll call you personally about our second date." Emma smiled. "Confident, aren't you?" "Hopeful," Sebastian corrected. As he walked away, Sebastian knew he was already falling for Emma Lambert, and the sensation was both terrifying and exhilarating. For the first time in his adult life, his success and wealth felt secondary to his desire to impress one remarkable woman. Over the next several weeks, Green Horizon began working with Zimmerman Shipping on an extensive sustainability audit. The professional relationship gave Sebastian and Emma legitimate reasons to see each other frequently, though both were careful to maintain boundaries during business hours. After hours was a different story. They explored the city together, discovering shared interests in obscure documentaries, hole-in-the-wall restaurants, and early morning runs along the riverfront. Sebastian found himself sharing parts of his life. He rarely discussed the struggles of taking over the family business at 23 after his father's death, the pressure of providing for his mother and younger siblings, the loneliness that often came with success. Emma, in turn, confided her fears about starting her own business, her occasional doubts about making a meaningful difference in the world, and her frustration with being taken seriously in male-dominated industries. A month into their relationship, Sebastian invited Emma to his penthouse for dinner, the first time he'd welcomed her into his personal space. He debated having his private chef prepare the meal, but decided instead to cook himself, a skill he'd developed but rarely had time to practice. Emma arrived promptly at 7, bringing a bottle of wine and a small potted plant. "A peace lily," she explained. "They're excellent for improving indoor air quality." Sebastian accepted both gifts, leading her into his spacious living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. He watched her take in the view, curious about her reaction to his home. Unlike many who entered his penthouse for the first time, she didn't immediately comment on the obvious luxury or the priceless art pieces. Instead, Emma moved toward his bookshelf, examining the titles. "Hemingway, Steinbeck, Thoreau, not what I expected." What did you expect? Sebastian asked, handing her a glass of wine. Investment guides and biographies of business tycoons, she admitted with a smile. Though I see you have those too. I contain multitudes, Sebastian quipped, leading her to the kitchen where he had preparations underway for their dinner. Emma seemed genuinely surprised by his culinary skills. Where did you learn to cook like this, my mother? Sebastian explained, stirring the risotto. She insisted that all her children learn, said no matter how successful we became, we should never be helpless in a kitchen. Wise woman, Emma commented, naturally falling into helping him prepare the meal, their movements synchronizing as if they'd cooked together for years. Over dinner, Sebastian broached a subject he'd been considering. Green Horizons' preliminary report is impressive. I'd like to implement your recommendations across our entire fleet. Emma set down her fork. That's a substantial commitment, Sebastian. The initial investment would be significant. But the long-term benefits outweigh the costs, he countered, both environmentally and financially. Your analysis proves it. You don't need to do this to impress me, Emma said carefully. I can separate our personal relationship from business decisions. Sebastian reached across the table for her hand. This isn't about impressing you. You've convinced me it's the right move. For the company, for our clients, for the planet. That's what makes you exceptional at what you do. The sincerity in his voice must have convinced her because Emma squeezed his hand and nodded. Then I'm excited to help implement the changes. But we should present this to your board properly, with complete transparency about our relationship. Already planned, Sebastian assured her. I've scheduled a board meeting for next week. I'd like you to present your findings personally. After dinner, they moved to his balcony with glasses of dessert wine. The night was clear, the city lights creating a twinkling landscape below them. It's beautiful up here, Emma said, leaning against the railing, though I imagine it gets lonely sometimes. Sebastian stood behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. It did, until recently. She turned in his arms. Sebastian, I need to ask you something. Anything? Is this real? Her voice was soft but direct. Because I'm not interested in being a passing distraction for a bored billionaire. Sebastian took her face in his hands gently. Emma Lambert, I have never been more serious about anyone in my life. You've turned my world upside down in the best possible way. Then he kissed her, pouring everything he felt into the connection between them. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Emma's eyes remained closed for a moment longer. I think I'm falling in love with you, she whispered as her eyes opened, and that terrifies me. Why? Sebastian asked, his heart racing at her admission. Because our worlds are so different. Because relationships in the spotlight rarely survive. Because I've worked so hard to build something of my own, and I don't want to be known only as Sebastian Zimmerman's girlfriend. Sebastian nodded, understanding her concerns. I respect your independence, Emma. It's one of the countless reasons I'm falling in love with you too. Whatever happens between us won't change who you are or what you've built. That night, Emma stayed. In the morning light filtering through his bedroom windows, Sebastian watched her sleep, marveling at how quickly and completely she had become essential to his happiness. The board meeting the following week was a resounding success. Emma's presentation was meticulous, convincing even the most skeptical board members of the benefits of implementing her sustainability plan. Sebastian watched proudly as she fielded complex questions with confidence and expertise. Afterward, he announced their personal relationship to avoid any appearance of impropriety, making it clear that their professional collaboration had begun as a legitimate business endeavor and would continue with appropriate oversight. Over the next 6 months, Sebastian and Emma settled into a relationship that balanced their independent professional lives with their deepening personal connection. Green Horizon thrived, expanding its client roster beyond Zimmerman shipping to include other major corporations. Sebastian's company implemented Emma's sustainability plan, earning industry recognition and attracting environmentally conscious clients. They faced challenges, of course. Media attention followed them wherever they went. with tabloids speculating about everything from engagement rumors to fabricated relationship troubles. Marcus remained skeptically protective at first, but gradually warmed to the idea of his best friend dating his sister as he witnessed Sebastian's genuine devotion. The most significant test came when Emma was offered a prestigious 3-month consulting position with a conservation project in Indonesia. She approached Sebastian with trepidation, worried about the effect a prolonged separation might have on their relationship. "You have to take it," Sebastian said without hesitation. "It's an incredible opportunity." "But 3 months is a long time," Emma countered, "and we've barely been apart since we met." Sebastian took her hands in his. "I'm not going anywhere, Emma. We'll make it work. Besides, I've been meaning to visit our shipping operations in Singapore. Perhaps I could extend the trip, meet you in Indonesia for a few weeks." Emma's relief was palpable. "You do that?" "I would do anything for you," he said simply. "This is important to you, which makes it important to me." The day before Emma's departure for Indonesia, Sebastian surprised her with a weekend getaway to a secluded beach house on the Massachusetts coast. They spent 2 days walking along the shore, cooking meals together, and talking about everything and nothing. On their last evening, as the sun began to set over the ocean, Sebastian led Emma to a driftwood bench facing the water. "I wanted to give you something before you leave," he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Emma's eyes widened. "Sebastian." "It's not what you think," he assured her, opening the box to reveal a delicate compass pendant on a silver chain. "This is a promise. No matter where we are in the world, we'll always find our way back to each other." Tears filled Emma's eyes as Sebastian fastened the necklace around her neck. "It's perfect," she whispered. "There's an inscription on the back," he told her. Emma turned the compass over to read the tiny engraved words, "My true north." She kissed him then with all the emotion she felt as the waves crashed gently on the shore behind them. "I love you, Sebastian Zimmerman." "And I love you, Emma Lambert, more than I ever thought possible." The 3 months of separation proved challenging but strengthened their relationship in unexpected ways. They spoke daily, sharing details of their respective work and the small moments of their lives apart. Sebastian did join Emma in Indonesia for 2 weeks, experiencing firsthand the conservation work that had shaped her worldview. When Emma returned to New York, Sebastian met her at the airport, holding a simple handwritten sign that said "My True North" among the sea of drivers with printed placards. The moment she spotted him, Emma broke into a run, dropping her bags to launch herself into his arms. "I missed you," Sebastian murmured into her hair. "Never again," Emma replied. 3 months was too long. That night in Sebastian's penthouse, he asked Emma to move in with him. She hesitated, concerned about maintaining her independence. "What if we find a new place together?" Sebastian suggested, "Something that's ours, not just mine that you're moving into." Emma agreed, and they spent the next month house hunting, eventually settling on a brownstone in Brooklyn with a garden where Emma could grow herbs and vegetables. It was modest by Sebastian's standards, but perfect for them, a true home rather than just an impressive address. 6 months after Emma's return from Indonesia, Sebastian proposed properly. Not with a grand gesture or public spectacle, but during a quiet moment in their garden as they planted tomatoes together, dirt under their fingernails and the spring sun warming their backs. "You know," Sebastian said casually, "I've been thinking." "Dangerous," Emma teased, not looking up from the seedling she was carefully placing in the soil. "I think we should get married." Emma's hands stilled. She turned to find Sebastian kneeling in the garden dirt, a soil-smudged hand holding a simple but elegant emerald ring that matched her eyes perfectly. "I don't need an answer right away," he continued. "I know marriage is a big step. But I love you, Emma Lambert, and I want to spend my life with you, building something meaningful together, a family, a legacy that goes beyond business success or environmental achievements." Emma's smile was radiant through her tears. "Are you kidding? Of course I'll marry you." Sebastian slid the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into an embrace, both of them laughing as they realized they were covering each other with garden soil. "We're a mess," Emma giggled. The best kind of mess, Sebastian agreed, kissing her despite the dirt. They were married 6 months later in a ceremony that reflected their shared values: sustainable, meaningful, and focused on the people they loved rather than ostentation. Marcus served as best man, visibly emotional as he watched his best friend and sister commit their lives to each other. During the reception, held in the botanical garden where they had spent many Sunday mornings, Marcus clinked his glass to make a toast. When I introduced these two at a brunch last year, I never expected my best friend would become my brother-in-law, he began, earning chuckles from the guests. In fact, I distinctly remember warning Sebastian to stay away from my little sister. Sebastian squeezed Emma's hand under the table as they shared a private smile. But watching them together this past year and a half, I've never seen two people more perfectly suited for each other, Marcus continued, his voice growing serious. Sebastian, you may be worth billions on paper, but the richest you've ever been is since Emma came into your life. And Emma, you've always wanted to change the world. Now you're doing it with the most powerful ally I could have imagined for you. Emma wiped away a tear as Marcus raised his glass higher. To Sebastian and Emma, proof that sometimes the best things in life come from unexpected introductions at Sunday brunch. 2 years into their marriage, Emma gave birth to their daughter, Lily, followed 18 months later by their son, Jack. Sebastian, who had never imagined himself as a father, discovered a depth of love he hadn't known was possible. He adjusted his work schedule to be home for bedtime stories and weekend adventures, finding more fulfillment in family life than in adding zeros to his company's valuation. Emma continued to run Green Horizon, which had become the leading environmental consultancy in the country, though she scaled back her international travel. Together, they established the Zimmerman Lambert Foundation, focusing on environmental education and sustainable development in vulnerable communities worldwide. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Sebastian surprised Emma with a return to the beach house where he'd given her the compass necklace which she still wore every day. They walked along the same shore, now with 2 small children running ahead of them, searching for seashells and chasing waves. "Did you ever imagine this would be your life?" Emma asked, leaning into Sebastian's side as they watched Lily help Jack balance on a piece of driftwood. "Never," Sebastian admitted. "I thought success meant bigger ships, more contracts, expanding into new markets. I never understood that true wealth has nothing to do with money." Emma looked up at him, the setting sun highlighting the few strands of silver beginning to appear in her auburn hair. "And what is true wealth, Mr. Zimmerman?" Sebastian kissed her forehead, then nodded toward their children. "This, you, our family, the life we've built together." Emma smiled, touching the compass pendant at her throat. "Who would have thought it all started because Marcus invited me to brunch? Remind me to thank him again," Sebastian said. "Best introduction of my life." As the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky into a canvas of pink and gold, Sebastian Zimmerman, shipping magnate, billionaire, and most importantly, husband and father, held his wife close, profoundly grateful for that fateful Sunday morning when his best friend's sister walked into brunch and straight